A question that needs to be asked right now is Iran actually outplaying the United States? Not with military power, but with strategy. Today we're looking at the Iranian strategy from a broader viewpoint and why experts say the US will have significant difficulty dealing with it. To understand what's happening, we need to take a look at Iran's long-term playbook. According to Middle East expert Ross Harrison, Iran isn't reacting randomly. This strategy has been developing for decades, since the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. Instead of concentrating power, Iran spreads it across groups and regions like Hezbollah in Lebanon, various militias in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and other forces in Syria. This is called a diffusion strategy. It makes Iran harder to hit because there's no single target or group of concentrated targets. They spread out over multiple countries and groups, which make this strategy a force multiplier. And now this strategy is evolving. Iran is no longer just working through proxies, they're pushing pressure directly into key regions like the Gulf. They are doing this because they know they can't beat the US in a direct military fight, so instead they're raising the cost of the conflict. One major pressure point that came into play almost immediately is oil. By threatening the Strait of Hormuz, Iran disrupted global energy markets. That led to a rise in oil prices, which creates political pressure back in the United States, despite what the White House may say. Military strategist Harlan Ullman describes Iran's strategic approach as being one of winning by not losing. Let's take a look at that in a historical context. The US won just about every battle in the Vietnam War. That was also the case in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Despite that, they lost those three wars. One of the main reasons for that is because the weaker side didn't need to win outright. They just needed to outlast their opponent. And that's exactly what Iran is doing now. This strategy is starting to exact a significant price on the US. In a recent closed-door briefing by the Pentagon, officials told lawmakers that the first 6 days of the war cost $11.3 billion. The cost of interceptor missiles used by the Gulf states, the US and Israel, cost a staggering $26 billion over a 2-week period. The cost of using Tomahawk missiles alone is in excess of $3 billion. This heavy usage has now led to a major depletion of those countries' stocks of interceptor missiles and could lead to a situation where they may need to select which incoming missiles to intercept and which ones they will have to let through. It's also worth noting that these costs don't include equipment strain or personnel fatigue, nor do they include the growing number of casualties. So what can the US actually do? According to most experts, there are only two options: withdraw and claim some kind of victory, or escalate and risk making things worse by getting pulled into a regional ground war. That kind of escalation isn't simple. It's more troops, more ships, and more resources. Meanwhile, the conflict is spreading. Iraq is now involved. The Houthis are escalating attacks with key shipping lanes like the Red Sea under threat. And if those routes close, global trade could take a massive hit. But there's one scenario that could change everything: Iran's potential trump card. And that is the desalination plants in the Gulf. These facilities provide 95% of drinking water to the Gulf states. Iran has the ability to destroy these plants in a retaliatory action, and that ability is seen as a weapon of mass destruction, albeit a different one from unproven ones of previous conflicts. If those are targeted, it wouldn't just be a military escalation, it would be a humanitarian disaster. Diplomatic talks are happening on some level. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Pakistan are trying to find a way out. Pakistan are currently the most active mediator and are hosting talks in Islamabad with Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Egypt. They are trying to put in place a ceasefire framework that would reopen the Strait of Hormuz and create a regional agreement to de-escalate. Getting any such agreement would be a tall order at this stage, considering how far apart both the US and Iran are in their demands, and made all the more difficult by an active battlefield raging in the background. So this is where we are at the moment. Iran doesn't need to defeat the United States. They just need to wait and stretch out the conflict, which will keep raising the cost. And unfortunately for Donald Trump, they are in a position to do just that. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.